Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm gonna pose a question to you. What is considered the most popular X-Men? Um, so we've got some choices here. We can talk classic X-Men, or specifically, the comic book. So let's say Giant Size X-Men, 1975 up till Jim Lee X-Men, right? So we'll call it just the Chris Claremont X-Men. And then that's chopped up and subdivided as well. There's the, what's his face? Dave Cockrum. Dave Cockrum era. Chris Claremont wrote them all. But you got the Dave Cockrum era. Then you've got the John Byrne era, which is that's Dark Phoenix. I would consider that's probably the definitive X-Men. Then you've got that kind of bopping around of Paul Neary, Dave Cockrum comes back, John Romita Jr. And then it kicks off into, say, like the Mark Silvestri, Arthur Adams X-Men. And that's pretty much the mainstay up until the late 80s, until we hit 89 or 90 with Jim Lee X-Men. So you got Jim Lee Uncanny, and then of course it pivots into the X-Men standalone comic, just the X-Men by Jim Lee. And then of course, is it Scott Campbell? Not Scott Campbell. Scott Lobdell, I can't remember who the artist is, who took over into the 90s, which basically just continued the Jim Lee era, so the 90s X-Men. Comic book, 90s X-Men comic book. And then we're gonna look at, of course, obviously the animated series in the 90s. Is that the definitive X-Men? Is that considered the most popular X-Men? So let's break it down. I don't really have any visuals prepared for you, but let's just put up maybe a notepad here. It's probably the easiest way. Maybe come up here. Okay, let's go. Sorry, this is gonna look too goofy. Let's do this a little bit differently. I'm gonna go to, say, a word pad, blow it up big so we can see the letters big. But yeah, so think about that. Think about that while I'm getting this going here. What do you consider to be, the definitive X-Men? So let's bring this up. Okay, let's try this. Let's go. I know we could do this if I had logos and everything. So let's go comic book. Oh, sorry. I'll do it in all caps with that. Comic book. Comic book X-Men. So that's mostly the Claremont stuff. Sorry, got the caps on. Okay, so the Claremont stuff, and of course that also includes, Cockrum. Well, let's do Claremont comic, and then let's break that down into the Dave Cockrum. I think his name is. Let's go John Byrne, and then we'll just do, say, let's go Mark Silvestri, and then of course Jim Lee, and then because that pretty much marks, I think Chris Claremont wasn't even writing it by the time Jim Lee left. I'm not sure. So let's just break it down and make it easy to those four versions of the comic. Okay, now we're going to look at the animated series. The animated series. Of course, the 90s animated series, because they are coming out with the 97. I'm kind of doing this in response to the coming up of the animated series, the 97. And then I guess the last one would be just called Modern X-Men, or what else could we call it? Let's just say it's the Genosha I can't remember who the writer is on that, but let's just say Genosha X-Men. You know, where they're on the island of Genosha. What's going on now? Like the Gala X-Men, whatever that is, the Gala Ball thing, you know, the whole Genosha thing. So let's break it down to these 4, and then you can subdivide it if you want to by the comic book, the older, you know, the comic book up to the 90s. So that's my question. And then I'm just going to give my personal take on these. You know, you can obviously disagree, and, you know, it also depends. Now, also, I'm gonna say this also is generational, or it may be by decade. I guess generational is the best to put it. I would say that if you're a comic book fan, meaning any of the 4 of Chris Claremont, even Jim Lee, maybe that's the cusp, but I'm gonna still say I'm gonna lump Jim Lee in there for the comic book, the Claremont X-Men. I think I spelled Claremont wrong. Isn't there an I in it? It doesn't really matter. But anyways, let's say that age bracket, or that generation, is Gen X, right? And that's probably pretty much what it is. So people born between 1965 to 1980, right? Okay. And then let's say that this one definitely is a millennial thing. Millennials, or however you want to say it. And that would be, say, 1981 to, what's the cutoff of that? I think is it a 95? Might be 95. Let's just say it's 1995. I think because the new generation starts at 96, I believe, but don't quote me on that. Now, I know there's like the Zoomers and the Zennials, so we're just going to put, I don't know the exact dates, but let's just put Gen Z. I don't know if it's the Zoomers or whatever it is. So let's just say Gen Z, and we'll put that from 1996, the year Pokemon came out, on to current. Yeah, let's just say to current. I guess you can't say that. I think it's 2011, I think. 2011, I think, is the cutoff. Turn it. Got this. Ooh, there we go. So, you're probably going to fall into one of these categories if you're watching these videos. Now, I don't really know what my demographic is on YouTube, because I don't have much of a demographic at this point. But let's just say that if you're Gen X, you're probably going to be skewed more towards the Claremont comic. And then if you're a millennial, you're probably going to skew more towards the animated series. And that, I would say, that would also include the Jim Lee X-Men comic, which is not the Uncanny. So I'm going to say, put this as an Uncanny comic book, Uncanny X-Men, and then the Jim Lee X-Men. So I would definitely put those two together, because they kind of are synonymous with each other. Even Jim Lee ended up leaving and going to Image, but we'll just say that just for argument's sake. And then, of course, if you're a Gen Z person, or I don't even know if I got the generations right, but let's just say anybody after millennial, you're probably going to put in, the X-Men you've grown up with, because you haven't got this cartoon yet, and I guess there were other cartoons. I guess there's X-Men Evolution. I can't possibly think X-Men Evolution is the definitive X-Men. I mean, you also have to consider this with this generation is the movies, the movies by Sony. Let's just put that specifically so we know we're not talking about MCU. Well, it's still considered the MCU, but it's not Marvel Studios. It's Sony that did that. So let's just say that. And if you, like I said, if you're gonna, because there are people who love Hugh Jackman and they like Patrick Stewart as Xavier, but me personally, because I'm coming from that generation, I can't see the movies being the definitive X-Men. I mean, first one was okay, not that great. The other ones weren't that great either. And then when they did like First Class and the newer ones and Age of Apocalypse, they're all right. I don't think they're terrible. I just think they're okay. But if you, like I said, me personally, I can't agree with that being the definitive X-Men. Like I said, I'm a purist, or I always go to the original source, and I consider the definitive is going to be Claremont's X-Men. I mean, to me, hands down, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I can't, an animated series based off of what Claremont created and then changed, here and there to be more conducive to the animated series. I don't consider that the definitive. I consider it's a derivative, or it's a part of it. It's just like the MCU. I can't consider the MCU to be the definitive of, like, say, the Avengers. I consider the comic book the definitive of the Avengers. But as I say, I'm old, and a lot of young people, especially people that are young, in their formative years during the time that stuff came out, they're going to obviously think that. Now, here's one thing I wanted to say about that, though. So for me, because if you could go back to Silver Age comics, in the beginning of Marvel, the Marvel Age in the '60s, starting with Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. I wasn't alive during that time, right? That's a boomer generation. That's the end of the boomer generation. Very, very beginning of Gen X. But I wasn't, that was definitely a different generation, right? And so those people, if they're still around, they would probably say, and I'm assuming people who were born in, like, the 50s are probably still around, they would probably say, if they were a fan of it, they would probably say, oh, yeah, Spider-Man, the comic book from the 60s, the Silver Age stuff is considered the definitive Spider-Man or the definitive of X-Men. I mean, you could do this on Avengers, Spider-Man, whatever you want to say, but we're going to specifically look at the X-Men here because, remember, the X-Men came out in the 60s. However, it really didn't catch on until 1975 with Giant Size X-Men, with the all-new X-Men. So I guess I can kind of say that, but like I said, there could be people who, the 60s was their formative years, and they would say, oh, no, totally which are like the X Factor team, the original X-Men. No, that's the definitive X-Men. So I guess we'll have to put that in there. Now, I don't know what the ages are on the boomer generation, but let's just put Silver Age X-Men. Let's just put that the original team. Original team. And if and that was written by Stan Lee, yeah. So let's just put that the Lee Kirby X-Men. Okay. I mean, I know what's his face. Neil Adams did those great issues in there and stuff, and Steranko worked on it for a little while and whatnot. But let's just put that there, and then we're gonna say that is the boomers. Or boomers very, I guess, no, because, I mean, if you're Gen X and you're born in 65, you're probably not even reading comic books until the 70s. So, yeah, you would definitely fall into the Claremont generation. So, yeah, you'd be boomer. You'd be boomer at that time. So, yeah, I'm not even going to put dates on there, but... So... let's look at that. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. Now, that's not to say that this generation say, oh, yeah, no, definitely it's this. And that's not to say that there are Gen X people who are like, I love that, but I really didn't get into the X-Men until the animated series or Jim Lee stuff, because there are a lot of people like that. There are a lot of people that were not into comics in the 80s whatsoever, and they're like my age. And then when the craze went, especially around the time of the movies, and then they're like, oh, I started reading the comic books because I saw the X-Men movies or because of the X-Men cartoon. There's totally those people out there too. So, and they could fall anywhere. I mean, they could be boomers, they could be Gen Xers, they could be millennials. I mean, maybe you're a millennial, even though it's their formative years as well, but you didn't get into it until you saw the cartoon or whatever. Or maybe you're, any of these people, maybe you didn't get into it until you saw the, what do you call it? I'm going to put, I got the movies, Sony, yeah, I guess let's put that there, because the X-Men hasn't joined full force into what's considered like the Disney Marvel MCU. So that's if we're doing the Avengers, yes. If we were doing I can't even say Spider-Man. If we were doing the Avengers, yes, that's pretty much all they have. Yes, we would definitely include that. But they didn't yet, or they haven't yet. Maybe they will, I don't know. I know they're putting Wolverine and Deadpool, but I don't think they've gone full force and put the X-Men in yet. I don't really follow the MC much anymore. I never really did in the first place, but now I'm really kind of out of the loop ever since the last, batch of whatever. Alright. Sorry, you can't even see this. I got my screen cover there. Okay, let me put me over here. Actually, let's try this. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Okay. So, and can you see all of it? I think you can see all of it, yeah, on the screen there. Alright. Alright, so let's just go over this again real quick. Like I said, I'm not trying to just keep repeating myself, but I'm kind of forming this as I go here. So, are you in this bracket? And you can ignore the generation stuff. I just put that on there just to give context. But are you an original team Lee Kirby X-Men? I'm going to say probably not. But let's just say you are. Is that your definitive X-Men? Are you a Claremont, the Uncanny X-Men with Claremont, either Cockrum, Byrne, Silvestri, Lee? I mean, you can even put Paul Smith in there, John Romita, whoever, Arthur Adams. But I picked the four big ones there. Or are you a 90s X-Men? Are you Jim Lee comic? And of course, obviously, a tail end of that. And then are you, a movie person and into, are you an animated series person? Now, see, the movie thing kind of crosses over from 90s into modern, I guess, kind of, sort of. But like I said, there's kind of a big gap where the comics kind of fell out of flavor, but there's X-Men craziness now, so I would call modern X-Men like the Genosha X-Men. Is that your favorite? If I was to rank these, me personally, I would probably go number 1, without a doubt. Number 2, number 3. I don't know. I've tried to read those Lee Kirby, the X-Men's, and they're a hard read. They're harder to read than the Genosha X-Men. So yeah, I would say they're probably last. And you can do this too if you want to put in the comments. You can just pick one. Say, oh, I'm all animated. That's it. Or I'm all comic. That's it. Or you could rank them how I kind of did, and give it a hierarchy. Which ones do you think are the best? Anyways. Yeah, because like I said, we're gearing up for this new cartoon, and of course that's gonna open up. Eventually, it's gonna open up a whole new bracket, because there'll be people who are now, like my son's age. He won't watch it, and that's and here also. So this lies the problem too. Unless that X-Men cartoon is really good. I mean, like, really good. Like, knock your socks. Just as good as the X-Men in the 90s X-Men. Good. If it's that good, then I could see maybe, you young kids, like my son's age. My son's 12. Maybe he's a little too old for it. Maybe it's more 8 to 12 or 8 to 10. But regardless, I can't see you prying those kids away from Fortnite and YouTube and Mr. Beast long enough to get them to pay attention. They might. I mean, it is only 10 episodes, and of course they're gonna, it's the first season. But I don't know. I said I don't know if kids are watching that stuff anymore. I mean, I asked my son, and he says, "No, I don't think so." But so that that therein lies a problem. Who is it for? I mean, just the fact that you're going back to '97, I would assume you're trying to appeal to the millennial generation and their nostalgia for the original cartoon. I'm assuming that's what the whole point is. I mean, why would you do that? Why would you, if that's the most popular animated version and that's the animated version going to continue from there, then that would make sense, right? So that's obviously through it's for. Is that generation enough to really, put, to make it successful, and then also what constitutes success for the show is, I don't know how streaming works. I mean, it doesn't seem, I'm sure there's like how many streams or how many views, just like a Spotify thing, or YouTube, how many times it's been viewed. Is that what makes it popular? Is it just selling product, selling merchandise, action figures, comic book adaptations, whatever, T-shirts, lunchboxes, the whole 9 yards. And I'm curious to see what the merchandising looks like for this new show too. I mean, I know I've seen the action figures and I've seen that Mondo Rogue, it's $200, and I've seen some of that stuff, and I have seen like a shirt. I think I've seen a poster. I mean, I've seen a few merchandise items here and there, but what are they going to do? I mean, I'm trying to think what they had in the 90s too. I mean, obviously most of it predominantly were the Toy Biz figures. I'm sure they might have had a poster, I guess, or maybe some. I don't. It's funny. As popular as that show is, I don't remember a lot of licensed stuff in the 90s. I mean, a lot of Power Rangers, a lot of Pokemon in the 90s. Whatever, that type of stuff. Even Ninja Turtles, because Ninja Turtles was still kind of going on. But I didn't see, going to like Toys R Us or anything like that, I didn't see a lot of animated series merchandising outside of the Toy Biz stuff. So again, chime in on that too. If you know about this stuff, or you're like, you were there at ground zero with that. I mean, I was alive then, and I was obviously, aware of it, but I didn't watch it that much because I was in my 20s, and I was, out trying to do what guys in their 20s do, and, trying to look for work, and, there's Army in there, all kinds of things. I didn't really catch the animated series kind of until, like, the very end in, like, reruns, and then, of course, I just had to start watching it after the fact. I just watched the Graduation Day episode yesterday, just to kind of get a glimpse, because that was the last episode. It would be going into this new series just to see, and I'll probably watch a couple more episodes today. As I was telling my friend, I've tried to get into watching the animated series probably 5 times in the last 10 years, and every time I don't get past like the 3rd or 4th episode. Or I just I'm like, I can't watch these all in a row, and I start skipping around and cherry picking some episodes that have just storylines or characters that I liked. And I might even do that tonight. Like I said, I can't just go from start to finish because I never make it past like the 3rd episode, and I really can't do more than like 3 episodes at a time, and then I just get bored of it because I really don't like it that much. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, I don't like the animation. I find it wonky in spots. It's not terrible. The voice acting's fine. Like I said, and like watching the Dark Phoenix, it's like I know the Dark Phoenix. I've read it multiple times. the original Claremont. And then it's like you're hitting me with this kind of new interpretation. It's just like I get kind of, a little frustrated with that. So, yeah, I guess it is what it is. So, it's got a short video today. Like I said, I'm just more basically posing the question, and I kind of wanted to illustrate my point here, so that you kind of know where I'm coming from. And if you've got another category, if you got something else, let me know. We'll add it in here. But sorry, no, I can't drink coffee because I have terrible acid reflux. Coffee, chocolate, alcohol, anything like that is like I will be up in the middle of the night throwing up through my nose. So I can't drink that stuff. I do drink like a Monster or a Rockstar in the morning to get me going while I'm doing my work. But I don't want to also die of a heart attack too, so I try not to have more than one in the morning, and that's it. So there's that. So I just once that's over and I'm starting to crash, then I just start to crash. There's nothing I can really do about it. Like I said, because I can't just keep caffeinating myself, and coffee literally will give me like the worst acid reflux episode, preferably in the middle of the night when I'm trying to sleep. All right, so that's what it is. So give me your thoughts on that. Or give me stuff in the comment. Let me know what's going on here, or how you're thinking on this. And I'm just curious. I just wanted to throw it out there. Plus, it's kind of my day to kind of relax a bit and kind of get things done around the house. So I didn't put a lot of heavy thought into this video, obviously. So, anyways, like and subscribe if you like it. If you like the stuff that I've been doing. Like I said, that helps me out. I have not monetized yet. It's not my goal. And by me saying it's not my goal means, it's not his goal, so I'm not going to subscribe. I mean, it'd be nice. It's not my goal, but if it happens, it happens, and I'll be much appreciative. So whatever, whatever you want to go, however you want to go on that. Subscribe, like, whatever you want to do. If you want to help me out, do it. If you don't want to help me out, then don't. I don't really care. Yeah. Okay. So I'll catch you on the next one, whatever that one may be. All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.